The Paul Harrell Program.
Give me a text message or a phone call, 870-275-9799. Hey, welcome back to the program. We have Senator Terry Rice is with us from District 9. Terry, welcome back, sir.
Thank you. Hello, Paul. Good to be with you.
Yes, sir. Glad that you could call in. So we've been doing these things called the impression of the session with legislators and other folks as well. So feel free to be as short or as lengthy as you want. What was your impression of the session 2017?
Well, when you texted me the other day and said, have you done your impression of session yet? And I text back, I don't think you understood me. I said, if you had a screenshot of it with exclamation mark, was how contorted my face was when you sent me that question. In one word, it would be frustrated. And, you know, all sessions can get frustrating. This one was counting fiscal sessions, which started the first term that I came in the House and served 6 years before moving to the Senate. I've had 9 sessions plus special or extraordinary sessions. But this one was, to me, the most frustrating that I've had, and we dealt with, again, things you've got to deal with. People voted for marijuana, so we tried to stay with the what the law intended, with some quirks and necessities, and I don't think we varied a lot from it, even whether you agree with it or not. It's part of the process. We had a lot, as you've talked on your show much, guns. We had wine and other liquor bills, and as that consumed so much time, especially through committees I was on, Judiciary and Senate state agencies, I kept thinking, man, our roads are falling apart. We need to come up with a long-term highway plan. We need to be shrinking government. We're almost 2.5 years into a new administration that has people voted to lessen government, and I realize it's a process and it takes time, but we need to be doing that. And there's so many things that I wanted to see addressed, cutting back on this bloated, inflated Medicaid spending. Colleague told me that it was $3.2 billion just a few short years ago, and now it's $7.2 billion here in Arkansas. It's just we knew where it was going back when many of these things passed, and it wasn't that we don't want the best for our people, but those of us, especially in business, know you've got to deal with what you've got funds to do it with.
I mean, that is, I'm writing down the stuff that you're saying. We're talking with Senator Terry Rice. That was his impression of the session, just his, his opening monologue, we'll say. So you mentioned, let's start with the Judiciary. You mentioned Judiciary. You were on that committee. There were times, because I was in there many times, and I reported on it. There were times that I'm just going to say some of you guys on there seemed kind of frustrated. Were you ever frustrated?
I was, and that was the one word that summed up so much. It wasn't just in Judiciary Committee, but we had a split committee. I served also on Judiciary 2 terms in the House, and now my second session in the Senate, and again, you're going to have some of that, but it just some of the things I would like to see run a little smoother. Some of the issues we're dealing with are just that frustrating thing to have.
You had kind of an allergy, not you, but the chairman of that committee, Jeremy Hutchinson, seems like there was kind of an allergy to tackle any social issues, any more real conservative gun legislation or, privacy protections, or, they compared some of the legislation to North Carolina's bathroom bill. There seemed to be kind of a resistance to even meet towards the end, so you wouldn't even have a chance to hear some of your colleagues' legislation or ideas.
And that, Paul, is the power of the chair, and that's the reason there's so much in the legislature that a lot of people don't understand, and I didn't used to understand it, even though my dad served 18 years. I tell people, government is kind of like a casino, and I'm not a big gambler, but I understand how it works. It's stacked in favor of the House, and you know, the rules and the way things are stacked in favor of the House government. So you when you appoint chairman, they have leeway. I mean, that's part of the rule. They have leeway to call and to not call, and you have things to overcome. As trying to be as conservative as we can be, it's hard to get your voice out and to get over that hump sometime, because it's really stacked against you. Just like everybody, all you hear about is people that say they won at a casino. Well, you can win one every once in a while in government, but it's stacked against you so much you lose a lot more than you win.
Mm-hmm.
when you're doing some things that I think we need to be doing.
Yeah, you know, what's interesting about the chair, you mentioned having all that power. It's a good thing that Jeremy Hutchinson was the chair for his interests and the people he is more loyal to, not the conservatives, because if you look at the way the committee was stacked up, I mean, you have yourself, you have Brian King, Senator Linda Collins Smith, she was the vice chair, Gary Stubblefield. So you four, you need 5 votes to get something out. You had Trent Gardner was on the committee, and there were some things I think, you know, he would have voted for. And then, let's see, a gentleman from the River Valley. His name escapes me.
Greg Standridge.
Yeah, Standridge, and I know he is battling cancer and wasn't there a lot of the times.
Yes.
But still, you know, it's a good thing he had that power, because if not, the full Senate would have had to vote on, and possibly the governor have to veto or sign, you know, legislation that it just, like I said, it seemed like there was an allergy to the social issues I thought we all agreed on.
And again, you know, it's tough to take votes sometimes, and you know, that's part of it. But I would rather vote it up or down. But again, it's the call of the chair, and
yeah.
Did what we could.
You mentioned in your statement a second ago that we were dealing with other stuff, marijuana and other things, took up a lot of time, and you were saying we want a long-term plan for highways and roads. I think a lot of Arkansans would agree with that. Did you think an appropriate long-term plan was what they tried to do in the House, which was submit another amendment that was deceptive, that would Arkansans would have probably voted for, not realizing it would have initiated a 6.5% tax increase on wholesale gasoline?
Anything that what I have wanted to do, and I think there's still some work behind the scenes, whether we could do it in a special session or what. One, I would be for, and I wished we had been able to put it before the people in November of 2016, but you need sunset bills on taxes. You need taxes defined where they're going, not just to put them in a black hole. They need to be more definite. One of the things that's talking about, and you've talked about too, is internet tax. If there's some offsetting of tax, I'm for tax cuts, but our roads in many parts of the state are going down so low. The cost of repair and replacement is exponentially goes up the more they go down, by far, if they go below a certain standard. So the longer we wait on this, it's going to cost us more. But
and that's true. That's true. My biggest issue, I mean, I'm not for the tax increase. I'd rather try to cut somewhere else. And I know that's a lot of money, but I mean, hey, if it's really a priority, and I think it is. My biggest issue, though, and I'm sure you would agree, Senator Rice, I mean, the ballot title would have been deceptive. I mean, it would have been the third year in a row where people would be voting for something not knowing what it was really going to do. That would have been my biggest issue.
Absolutely. There is no reason for a ballot title to be accepted through in the AG's office, and even if the legislature refers it, it should not go. And I've heard that said back when the one was done on term limits, which I did not support because it wasn't term limits, it was extending terms. But nothing should go on about it like that if people can't understand it. And I am for transparency in that.
We're talking with Senator Terry Rice from District 9. This is his impression of the session. Okay, you also mentioned the internet tax. So what's up with this quest for revenue? I mean, what's it really about? And there were amendments to try to get the revenue from the internet sales tax to be directed in a specific place. You were kind of talking about that with a gas tax, but people didn't want to do that. So why all of a sudden are they asking Republicans, the leadership asking Republicans to vote to take more money from the people? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, my thoughts are the same thing you've talked about, and many of us have talked about for a long time, was the ones that have been down there and fought the Medicaid expansion, not, again, for those who are truly needy and are supposed to be on Medicaid assistance. On the insurance expansion for able-bodied people, regardless of what the federal law says, if we don't get that changed, we've said all along this thing is not sustainable. And it's still not sustainable. Now you're seeing grasping for money to keep this thing afloat until hopefully the Fed will do something. But the going back to the internet tax, nobody wants. I say nobody. The reason it didn't pass, they don't want it to go down a black hole, and that's what the Medicaid spending has become. It's just a black hole that swallows all that you can put in it. There is a better way. If the federal government, now that Arkansas is already in this thing knee deep and sinking, if the federal government can come through where this thing can be cut back in some way and sustain whatever they're going to sustain, I don't know that that's possible, but I do think there are some offsets in taxes. I think it is a fairness issue on the internet tax, and I know you have stated different things. I've been on this issue for a long time as a retailer, and I've seen it in many parts of the country. And it's not just for changing times, but the internet tax to level the playing field. As long as we will give tax cuts back to the people and not pie in the sky in the future, we need to go ahead and define it, what we're going to do and what would be done with it rather than just put it in general revenue. Have you heard that the internet tax may be brought up in the special session coming up next week? I have not heard that it's going to be in this first session. If you remember, and I can't remember whether we had 2 or 3 extraordinary sessions, which were called the special sessions, instead of after the regular session. I look at that could be done. I've heard mentioned possibly in September. One thing I've said, it gets unpopular the closer you get to the time to vote, which would be in the following May primary. So, there will be some resistance to that. I just think sooner or later that's going to have to be addressed, and I'd like to address it as fairly with the people as it could be, and definitely not see it just go into the black hole of government. What do you do? What do you do about the constitutionality argument? Well, and that's something the Congressman Womack and others have tried to address that in Congress. I wish Congress would go ahead and address it. When South Dakota law or South Dakota ruling on that, I hear, and I don't know the legalities of it. I've heard some of that. To me, it's just, let me ask you this. If you're buying off the internet, if you're not remitting on a tax form as you're supposed to, are you breaking the law?
Yes.
Law that's been in effect since 1949, okay? I ask people that. When they say we need more from the government, we need this, that. They say, well, I'm not remitting, I don't keep up with it. No, well, this is a trigger mechanism to keep up with it. If it's unconstitutional, it'll be unconstitutional, and it'll have to go another direction. The federal government will have to rule on it. But it is a fairness issue, because when the infancy of the internet, to me, it did allow the internet to grow. But you allowed somebody like Amazon, which is not remitting all now, the third-party stuff, they are not voluntarily remitting. They are some of the collecting and remitting on some other, but it has allowed them to grow exponentially. And that's fine. That's great. I don't mind online competition. If they ship, the end user has to pay freight, just like I have to pay freight to my store and then sell it. So, but it's an unlevel playing field when you've got, in our county, we've got 11 and 8% total tax.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
and
too
the
high.
the last 1% city tax was put on with something like, I think, less than 200 people voting on it. Now, there's another issue that we addressed this session, or tried to address this session too, is not enough people.
Would you? Let me ask you this:
Would
would you support the other version, which would be, hey, the government's got to find a way to make people comply by collecting it, just on the use end, not the sales tax end, but on the use tax end, the products we receive from these out-of-state companies?
That's I think anything that will level it to a fairness issue. But again, if it brings in, they're talking about $30-some-odd million on Amazon. And they don't know yet. I haven't seen any figures yet. But even if it was $100 million, if you got everybody to pay it, I'm not for growing government, but I do think we can take that and do cuts for the people. But I want to see those cuts, and I think that's the reason it didn't pass. I had many of my colleagues on the House end, I say many, had a few that specifically told me they had asked for the offsets on that.
Seems like, yeah. So the offsets though were like a no go. And why do you think that is?
No.
Is it Medicaid expansion? We got to pay for Medicaid expansion. Is that why?
That's the 800-pound gorilla that's consuming all the bananas.
That's exactly right. Well, Senator Terry Rice, I appreciate you being on the program, sir. I really do. Thank you so much.
I'll keep up the good work. Take care.
All righty. Thank you. Folks, the phone number to call us or text us, 870-275-9799. Give us a phone call. Give us a text message. The Liberty Machine rolls on in just a moment.